Now that the Hal Leonard book has given us the chromatic scale, we move on to the song The Entertainer, which uses a lot of the chromatic motion that we've seen there. We've actually seen most of this already, as one of the foremost uses of the chromaticism in this is between the D, the 2 of the scale, and the E, the 3 of the scale, going through the minor third. We've seen this in all styles of music, but primarily in our discussions thus far, it's been part of a blues program. We'll also see motion from the 4 to the 5 through the chromatic sharp 4 or flat 5. That's the traditional blue note, or often it's motion through the secondary dominant. Descending, we will also walk through C to B flat to A. All of the notes that are chromatic I've mentioned as being flat 3s or sharp 4s or flat 7s. If they weren't considered sharp or flat, they would be diatonic to the key. So this is The Entertainer. It's the most popular ragtime song and comes to most of the people of my generation from the movie The Sting and is often thought to be called The Sting. Scott Joplin was the main composer of ragtime music. It's a piano style of the late 1800s. He was a classically trained musician who considered ragtime to be classical music. He was trying to elevate it to the position of Beethoven or Bach. At the time, music publishers were making piano rolls of music, and through the player pianos it became very popular. What we're looking at here is cut time, which you know is a 2/4 time, although it's written with quarter notes, and we would think of this as 4 and, 1 and, syncopation, we don't play on 2, and 3, 4 and. There's going to be 2 pulses per bar. So the half note is getting the beat, therefore technically this would be counted as though there were 16ths. So this would be on the beat 2, 2E and a, this is and a, 1E, 2 and a. So you could hear a little pause in my voice as I left out a syllable. To learn it you can count it in 8th notes, but just recognize where the pulse will be. We'll have do 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 do, 2 strums or two pulses per bar. It's also very syncopated, which was most popular on piano at first, although it came out of banjo and fiddle music and did grow into band music with ragtime bands, which of course became jazz bands. 2 elements of ragtime music on piano would be a stride piano movement, where you're hearing that motion from 1 to 3 to 5 to 1 to 3 to 5 in the bass hand. It's a forerunner of stride piano, although the motion of the left hand isn't as large. And syncopation, all this stuff off beat. If we're counting in quarter notes, we get a lot of ands being emphasized. 4 and 1 and 2 and 3, 4 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 4, 1. Or if it's counted as 16th notes, the E's and the A's of 1E and A would be emphasized in the syncopation. None of this is foreign to the classical music that Scott Joplin studied, but it becomes really the signature of this music. At some point, even Joplin thought that the ragtime piano players were getting carried away and that the syncopation or the ragged time was not making any sense anymore. So in this song, although it's in cut time, I'm going to count it in 4/4 for clarity. We're starting on a pickup on beat 4. It's the D note to a D sharp to an E. So there's your first chromaticism. The 2 to the flat 3 to the 3. Immediately from E up to C on the syncopated and. These are chord tones on a C, the E and the C notes. That figure is going to start off all our phrases. So we get 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. That C note hangs into the F chord. It's the 5 of the F. We tie it over all the way from beat 1, 2 into 3, and we start on the C again, on the and of 3, and 4, and there's D to D sharp again. So again, we're going through that flat 3, which is one of the blue notes. On the C chord, we have E, C as your first notes. There are 3 in the root. Run through a passing tone D, syncopate on the E for the G chord. But then we get chord tones, B, D, on the C. So that phrase again, 2, 3. I've called that bar ending 1, although you're not going to see it that way in your book. They're going to actually write out the repeated notes. At the end of the line, you see the same phrase again. carries me through this C bar, hits the F chord again with the C note. This time it holds for the full 3 beats. A is a chord tone on F. It's the 3. There's another note that could be considered chromatic. From the F chord, we've now gone to an F sharp note, which is going to ultimately land on a G note. So it's chromatic between the F to the F sharp to the G. The sharp 4 or flat 5 could be a blue note in C, but really what we're looking at here is secondary dominant. The D7 leading us to a G. And we have the arpeggio of the D7 there. F sharp, A, C, E, a 9. This is one of our appoggiaturas. We've leaped over the D from the flat 7 to the 9 and then down to the root. Here's that bar again. So there's your arpeggio, the root, the flat 7, the 5, back up to the D, which is the 5 in a G chord. And here I'm going to use a repeat. We're back to the low D note, running us through this C bar, repeating the F bar. So I've played this line again. Now I'm on the C chord where we hit the C note, and then the next ending. Then they do use their repeat. So we play all of this again. That last C note will be followed by a different line that leads us into the B section of the song. So this is the A section. We've played it twice. Here it is again. 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. I'm using a repeat. This is a nice little motion. We're going to see a chromatic move here as well. So here we have the C chord, then a C7, but the B flat is usually in the bass. So that wasn't chromatic because I didn't hit the B on the way to the B flat, but it does resolve by half step to a scale tone, the A in the bass of this F, which goes to an A flat, that is chromatic, to a G note in the C chord. So you can hear the bass walking down with some half steps and chromaticism. The F minor is something we've seen. As you know, I erroneously call it the Beatles effect if I'm in C. And I hear the 4 chord, the F, to its minor. That chord came to me first through the Beatles. They're getting it from the 50s artists, no doubt, where Roy Orbison used it extensively. You'll run into it all through the classical music, the hymnals. I ran into it in Ave Maria by Schubert, and clearly Scott Joplin, who is influenced by the classical music, uses it here too. So we've got C, a secondary dominant, C7, leading to the F, leading to the F minor, leading to the C. So we start a chromatic run from the B flat in C, to the A in the F, to the A flat in F minor, to the G in the C chord. There's nothing new in the chords for you. We would get C, C7, F, C7 was a secondary dominant leading to F, G7, the 5 chord to C, back to C. We've seen it turn into its dominant 7 many times leading to the 4 chord, to C, to G7 tending to, same phrase, C, C7, F, F, raising a chromatic note to the F sharp in D7, the secondary dominant in G, which is 7 leading to C, and the song repeats. second ending C. And we'll leave it at that for today. That's your A section. We'll go to the B section next time. Have fun and take her easy, guys. Bye for now.